Unknown. Your destination. Hey, this is Benjamin Boyce. And.
Leslie Elliott Boyce.
Ooh, and welcome to the Deep End, or the Depend, depending on how you deepened it. I am your host, and so is she. And here we are checking back in. It's been a few weeks, Leslie.
It has.
I thought we. Oh, that's me. I am now listening to myself, listening to you. Okay, here, click. Okay,
you just started this, right?
Yeah. Well,
this is brand new.
We're rolling. It's been a while. It's been like 3 or 4 weeks because we had a bunch of things happening. We went to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. Then we went to, before Hawaii, we were in New York. After Hawaii, we were in Denver. Mm-hmm. And
been doing things.
Then after that, I was in Portland. So, man, we have been busy. Busy. How you been, though? How's your month been, Leslie Elliott?
But it's been just really great. It's been really
Any memorable events?
Few. We got a new game. That was really memorable.
Oh, what was the game that we got?
Earth.
What do you think about it?
I like it. It's really complicated.
Could you describe it to the audience? Do you have the language yet to describe video games?
The nerd language.
It's not a video game. It's
it's a board game. You call it an engine building game.
It's an engine builder.
Yeah.
Earth. I found it on sale on Amazon. You build an engine. You basically, the game is you have an island and you grow plants and you get multipliers. So an engine is that you set up using various cards in this game, different combos that get stronger and stronger. Then you kind of grow your island and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty fast. Once you pick it up, there's a lot of symbols you have to figure out. So our first game, we're kind of like, wait, what? What do we do? This, that, the other thing, And then the second one, actually, our we played like, I guess three games of that, and our scores were pretty even. And then one, I just creamed her.
You creamed me.
I just creamed her.
Yeah, you started to really get it.
But I don't know to what extent it's luck or strategy.
You look nice in my hat.
It's her hat. She really likes the yellow hats.
I like yellow.
Yellow hats.
Yeah.
So we are watching chat. If you guys have any particular questions that you guys want us to answer, because a lot of things have been really busy. I mean, we did get married, and there was a man in a dress. And that's completely dominated the last 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah.
I was on a spiritual retreat.
Yeah.
You're my spiritual treat, but I was on a spiritual retreat.
Yes.
Hope our audio is okay.
Yeah, I hope so too.
But what were some of the thoughts that you want to have? I guess we named it the episode Creepy Creepers.
Oh, yeah, just because there was just a comment on Twitter, somebody saying that you give her the creeps. And that's not the first person I've seen say that about you.
Many feministish females.
Why do you think that they have to be feminist to find you creepy?
Couldn't they
just find you creepy for other reasons?
I'm sure it is, but it's just like it's feminists. It's people within the gender critical discourse that are usually resentful or upset that I keep on popping up in their feed, because I tend to have like the premier conversations in this space, just because I basically forged the way for this to happen in a discursive way through my conversation technique. And then after me, a bunch of podcasts around this issue started up, but I just kind of got in there first. And, for some reason I'm creepy. I don't know why I'm creepy. Do you know why I'm creepy?
I don't really find you creepy, so I'm not sure I find you
is there a creepdar?
Uncreepy.
Like there's a gaydar. Is there a creepdar? Because when we get into the niceties of the Phil Illy dress debate, it comes down to people's having a vibe about Phil.
Well, and I wonder how many people have that vibe based on in-person interaction and versus impressions online.
Yeah, representative.
Yeah.
Representative.
Yeah. Like, what is he symbolizing for them?
Yeah.
And the whole AGP debate, there's a lot about that is it ties into things that are very uncomfortable for a lot of women.
Phil.
Well, yeah, there's that, but then there's also just all the women who have experienced the trans widow experience of having someone that you think say, actually, there's this whole other thing, and then start doing a completely different thing, which changes them aesthetically, changes them sexually. Yeah. And I think that's such a deeply unsettling and destabilizing experience for so many women who've been through that.
Yeah.
I haven't been through that, but I have been through discovering that your partner was living a double life.
Yeah.
a complete double life in terms of.
Well, is that creepy though?
It was it creepy. I mean, the sexual aspect was creepy for me. Yeah, there's creepiness, like you don't know what you've been involved in,
Yeah.
or what your partner's been involved in.
Or involved you in?
Yeah, passively by being a third party to something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that creepiness. But I think that there's something really creepy about the sexuality aspect for women.
Mm.
The bait and switch on sexuality.
Yeah. The male
Of
sexuality.
the trans widow experience.
Well,
And so
why
we'll
trans widow?
see the
Because it seems
rabbit
like it's
right
not a lot of people. The people who call me creepy are not usually the moms. They're just.
No, but when we're talking about the AGP thing and why that would set off somebody's.
Okay, well,
give
trans
people
widow
creepy
don't seem to
vibes.
be the ones who are kind of churning this debate, keeping
I
this.
don't think
and
that
the
it's
ba- the,
trans
this,
widows, but I'm saying that they're relating. I think that I can see how that could be related to that experience, which is
Okay.
kind of a nightmare experience for
Okay.
a lot of women
Okay.
who are seeing that happen and thinking, "Oh my God, could that be my husband?" This woman thought she knew this man, lived with him for this long, had children with him, and then it's a very unsettling thing,
Yeah.
disturbing thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the context in which you usually hear people talking about AGP.
Okay. Well, there's AGP abroad. It's ma'am stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of AGP discourse that I've seen is reposting of very not passable, cringy male to kind of trying to simulate female men, and then also pornography. The gender critical people share a lot of pornography as a group, kind of like a group session of mass ridicule or group ridicule.
Wait, they share pornography? Or
Yeah,
they
yeah.
share what? The gender critical people are sharing pornography? Did
Yeah,
you say
yeah,
that?
the AGP porn, like guys who
Oh.
go into
Oh, really?
to restrooms and jerk off. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, and then there's also the outrage porn factor. Like look at a lot of ridicule, a lot of look at this guy's. But to be absolutely fair, the people who could be diagnosed as AGP are the ones that are being the most rude, the most surly, and the most violent towards women on a political level.
The
in this
ones who
debate.
are overtly and obviously AGP, I guess.
But that's a technical diagnosis. But you could probably say that the homosexual transsexuals are not the spearhead of the political pushback against gender criticals.
I think there's a question about that. I think that that's one of the things that's raised by this entire discussion is this idea of, well, we've had for a long time this concept that we're transing the gay away, right?
Yeah.
But then the AGP thing raises an entirely separate source for gender dysfunction or gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's one piece of the conversation I think that's been well supplied through the Phil discussion.
Okay.
Or it's been highlighted by this discussion around Phil Illy, is how he is suggesting that he thinks most, at least male to female trans people are motivated by autogynephilia.
Yeah, some level. He the way that he describes it is that it's kind of like an influencer, one of just like an inclination. And I could understand that inclination. There's something appealing about feminine clothing.
Oh.
Because
Do say more.
well, I mean, you're the one who
Do
showed
say
up. Well,
more.
we
You were
want to talk
wearing my
about that.
hat, so I guess
I am
maybe
wearing your
you're-
toque.
Does that mean you're cross-dressing?
Yeah,
right
am
now?
I cross-dressing right now? Every once in a while, I have sweaters that have the zipper on the other side, and I feel like a transvestite. But there's a reason.
How do you feel about that?
There's a reason why lingerie is lingerie. Like there's something essentially kind of rather appealing about the article of clothing, or at least what the article of clothing is doing upon the body of the female, right?
Okay.
And so there's an association of the article of clothing, that feminine mystique has some sort of attractiveness in and of itself. Now, to what degree that becomes a fetish or becomes a thing in itself,
That you would want to put on yourself?
well, okay. I mean, putting on yourself, like we spoke with the psychologist Steve Levine that I interviewed. He spoke at both Gen Spect and Sagem, and he's a pretty awesome guy. I get to interview him. I have to figure out about how I can get that interview on my channel, because it's
Well,
a really
you should.
wonderful Really
asked.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to ask around to get the rights to that one. But it's really wonderful because he talks about the human aspect of this. And in conversation with him, he was talking about how we were trying to tease these aspects of like what makes a sexuality unhealthy. Now, one of the problems with the Philadelphia debate is that there's all these terms that are all kind of being meant to mean the same thing, which is disgust. When somebody uses paraphilia, fetish, perversion, all that stuff is just lumped into an expression of disgust towards a behavior. Why do we have a feeling of disgust towards the behavior? It doesn't seem like people really want to
I
drill
think
into
the
that.
disgust is around the dysfunction. You've gone astray from what the purpose of this behavior is to a degree that you're misfiring. I mean,
Misfiring.
quite literally misfiring in
Okay.
some sense, I guess.
I mean, to use the autogynephilic, the scientific or the research-oriented discussions on autogynephilia, they call it a erotic target location error, which is
Okay.
just
So
it's
that
a very
just sounds
fancy
like
thing. Like
dysfunction.
it's a
That's like
misfire,
yeah.
and Phil will probably say that it is a misfire.
I think that's what he
it's
did
it's
say,
it's
yeah.
wrong. Now, to what if it is wrong? What makes it wrong? What makes it unhealthy? One aspect of the gender critical debate, if I may just use that term in order to describe like one kind of hazy environment that's making repeatedly the same criticism, is that Phil's behavior, just on a level of dress, signals danger.
Okay.
Right. So there's the danger aspect, which is kind of the creepy aspect, but there's also a feeling of disgust that Rudy, in my previous interview with Rudy, well, debate, so called, with Rudy and Phil, Rudy kept on coming and saying that you are perverse. You are a pervert. What you're doing is a perversion. Do not associate your perversion with my sexuality. My sexuality, which is homosexuality, up into including like visiting. He talked about visiting bathhouses. So like it's a promiscuous
Okay.
homosexual sexuality is a different class.
Was it only a perversion because he knows because Phil has talked about what he thinks? Or was it just the act of, like, is it perverse for a man to wear makeup?
It's
Or-
not from what we could gather, for what I could gather, it's not. It's totally fine for a man to wear women's clothing
Okay.
and makeup as long as he doesn't admit or know himself to have any sort of romantic or sexual or libidinous feelings about that. So just having the feelings would make it perverse. But if you don't have the
Well,
feelings, then like but everything we do has some sort of feeling.
Yeah, but I guess I wonder. I guess I kind of. This would be a better question directed toward asked of someone who actually is experiencing autogynephilia rather than just asking it out loud here. But I guess I wonder: is it the act of wearing the makeup or the dress that is erotic, or is it that you have some underlying erotic association with yourself as a woman, and so you do all these other things as well, like in order to facilitate that?
Yeah.
But like, I guess I think that there seems like there's two issues. There's your
There's a lot of issues,
lifestyle.
but yeah.
Well, in that regard, aesthetically, there's your lifestyle, and there's your sexual behavior, which would be there would be overlap and influence between, but they wouldn't necessarily be one and the same.
Well, and then, so this is another aspect that I wish that if the conversation would be a little bit less oriented around the disgust reflex and the safeguarding reflex, and we can actually study the behavior and then actually make stronger moral cases against normalizing autogynephilia, is to what degree is it the case that when you feed this inclination, does it grow bigger, right? So if you start to feed a porn habit, does it necessarily grow bigger and greater? I'm sure that it depends on the individual participating in it.
Maybe to some extent, but I think that with all these things, I mean, that's one of the things I wondered, and I think that was one of my first questions when I spoke with Phil was, and it's a very personal question to be asking someone in front of people.
Yes.
But to what extent does porn inspire this, or how did does this have to do with pornography use? And that's something that I would suspect is that a lot of these kind of these fetishes and these paraphilias or these misdirected or dysfunctional sexual inclinations, how much are those influenced by the amount of time you've had to spend on just really
Immersing
exploring
yourself
your own personal sexual drives,
yeah.
and is that a dysfunction in and of itself
Yeah.
to have that much time to focus on that?
Yeah.
And I guess it's probably a conversation for another day because
It's a
it's
big
such a
conversation.
long
It's a
conversation,
very long
but I
conversation.
am really anti-pornography.
Yes, you are.
Strongly.
Yes, she is.
Sorry.
No, that's fine with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. But there's also the aspect of it to put a fine point on Phil's position. And it's interesting. Part of the reason why some people are calling me creeps right now is because I'm able to sympathize with Phil. Because and why am I sympathizing with Phil? They always read my mind. Like, why would you sympathize with it? It's because you probably want to
'Cause
get
you're
because
creepy too.
you're creepy too. Like you
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
wear your wife's underwear. Like I'm associated with that.
He's
But it
never
could
worn
be the
my
case.
underwear, but he does wear my hat.
I mean, the problem with explaining your intentions is that you could always be lying.
Actually,
So
yeah.
who cares what my reasons are? But I would make the argument that understanding that person's point of view would give me a better ability to make decisions, make judgments about how we can scale up sexual morality, which is a conversation that we probably want to arc into across
Maybe.
the broader social milieu, right? So how do we regulate? How do we say, listen, don't wear these clothing, right?
Well,
On what
yeah,
basis can we
that's a
say,
huge
don't
topic.
express yourself this way?
That's huge. I
Right.
think that's a whole nother thing. But I think that going back to what you said about being, what did you say about seeing his point or
Yeah.
being able to listen to him or something like that? I think that's such an important piece that's missing is the way I've been shocked by the way that people go straight to this kind of really this awfully snarky, mocking speech. These tones that are just like
It's not even snarky. It's really mean.
it's really mean,
It's
and
really
I
mean.
I
And
think
it's
that
always
there's
about breaking
why
down
can't
character
we disagree
or-
with someone without seeing them as inhuman.
This is that.
And
This is
that's
that particular political movement, which will not be named right now.
Well, I think that really it's emotional flooding when you're just emotionally flooded. And I was just having this conversation with
Emotional flooding.
with
That sounds kind of paraphilic. Like sacks of emotion just bursting in your brain.
So I was talking with somebody about this the other day, and I actually brought up in my own situation, I have sometimes still feel this way when I have to talk to my ex.
Yeah.
I'm still so frustrated with certain things, and I feel myself become kind of overwhelmed emotionally, and I just want, and I get flooded. I get to where I know I'm not going to be able to engage rationally because I'm angry. And so I recognize that happening, but it leads to really ugly discourse. And that was a post that
Does it lead? Does it ever
Alistair
lead
posted
anywhere
yesterday.
to mutual understanding or
I
to
just think
resolution?
it's a way that when you see somebody engaging in that way, it's you got to disengage because you're not going to have. There's no path back to have a rational argument through that emotional flooding.
Yeah.
And Alistair Gunn yesterday, he posted on Twitter about how he's lost a lot of his, I guess his passion for the gender fight after getting some really nasty comments. He's got cancer, and someone basically wished him dead, wished him suffering when they found that out because they take a different perspective than him. Yeah. And he posted some things, and he had this really well written thread about this, reflections on this way that people choose to conduct themselves when they're frustrated with the other person's side of an argument. And that's the thing that I find so upsetting about arguments on social media. And I have really tried to keep social media at arm's length for most of my adult life. Yeah. And so this last year being on Twitter has been interesting to sit by and watch it.
I got you on Twitter.
Not exactly.
Well,
you got me to use it more, though. Yeah, I was a lurker, and then you, okay. But the this recent thing with the dress debacle, I don't have a problem with the people who have legitimate criticisms. I think I have some of those myself.
Yeah.
It's a big topic. It's worth a lot of discussion. I think that the not this particular man and this particular dress, but what it means. What do you do from there? What does it mean about dress codes for men and women? And
Yeah.
and but the vitriol and the rage and the way that people are expressing themselves, I'm really taken aback by that.
It's funny.
You
It's
think so?
funny. Well, I mean, it's silly. It's silly, you know? Wait, did you see something?
I haven't checked in.
Somebody
so
said I put it on the.
you should put that up.
I put something up. Women can be creepy too, which we could
Really?
talk about. We could
Yeah,
talk about.
it's true. It's true.
Or nasty.
Oh, no, don't say that.
Don't say that.
No.
Okay, who am I putting up?
The one somebody Chaucerian Fraud says I put AGP in the same category as furries.
Georgina wants to know why no one talk about the pit display.
Pit display. What's that?
His armpits? I don't know what the pit display is. The parents with inconvenient truths about trans, which is PITT. I don't know, which is an acronym. Okay. Anyhow, so how do we, okay, creepy.
People respond to him and avoid those who are creeped out. What's that first one?
Wait, can you give me the
Go
color?
scroll up. Can't see it. There you go.
Ninja?
Yeah. He says, I've seen Phil 2 or 3 times now. He dresses as a female, but he is very aware of how people respond to him and avoids those who are creeped out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to have to apologize for saying this or try to qualify it too much. I just didn't find him creepy.
Yeah.
I thought he just,
Some people did, some people didn't.
I had a conversation with him. He said he was a circus arts performer. He looked very much like an acrobat. Looked like he was wearing sort of like these weird arm things and leg things. And I don't know. It didn't creep me out, but that's not to say that somebody else wouldn't feel that way. He is wearing a dress. But then again, I've lived in Seattle for a while. You see all kinds of things.
We're inoculated.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's women with beards all over the place now.
Yeah, it's true.
And men with boobs. And they're just they're hybrids. Like Seattle's this area's just become
Well, and that's another
very
thing.
hybridinous.
I think it's a conversation for people who have been really gender critical. I guess that's the people who oppose gender ideology.
Yeah.
Even if we end gender ideology now and we go forward and there's new regulation around cosmetic medical intervention for gender transition, and it stops and we stop educating kids in school with that.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
That's my phone. Can you keep talking?
Yeah.
I'm going to grab that.
So even if we are able to end it, we're still going to have a generation of young people that look gender, like have ambiguous gender expression. And we're going to have to figure out how to manage that. So those people who feel uncomfortable with the gender ideology, and I would count myself among them, I would like to see it. I would like to see people manage gender dysphoria differently without the way we're medicalizing it.
Yeah.
But we're going to have people for quite some time into the future who have there's a whole bunch of people now in the population who have had some degree of medicalization.
Yeah.
And are going to go through life with ambiguous gender presentation.
Yeah.
And so how do we manage that, and where do we draw lines? And if we say somebody, like a man can't wear a dress, how do you define what's a man now, and who can't wear that dress?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And if a man can't wear a dress, does that mean that a man who has had his genitals removed and now presents and has been on estrogen and has breasts, does that person have to wear male typical clothing and cannot show up in a dress?
It's one thing to say men can't wear dresses. It's the other to say men. It's one thing to police men wearing dresses. It's another to police why men wear dresses.
Well, then you're getting into mind reading.
Like, how do you police why somebody does something?
I think that you can't.
You just
have
call
to-
them creepy online, and you ridicule them, and you laugh at them, and hopefully
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, okay, I'll not do that." You know, because the social costs of behaving in this way that you think that I'm behaving, or why I'm behaving this way, is too much. So I'll cease to do that. But yeah, and then there's also the whole thing about autism. That's kind of like shadowing
Yeah.
here, because Phil has said that he's slightly autistic. I think that there is a lot of autistic signifiers. And again, we're just talking about this human being who didn't really do anything wrong to anybody. We're talking about his personal life, like he owes it to us.
Was there a way to have this conversation without directing it at him, so that we could have this? He's like the
think that-
person who he catalyzed
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yes.
But does it have to still revolve
Well,
around
it
this
goes back to
particular thing? Can
why
it-
are people being so personal? Why are people taking it so personal? Why are people being so nasty? It's because they are taking it personally, and they're directing it at a person. Because they are personally insulted by this person's behavior. And then they have to just imagine that they know the guy. And even me, who's like listened to him and tries to speak from his point of view, is accused of you can't sympathize with this guy, because even sympathizing with him means that you're against the other side. Like this other side who really is really deeply
Well,
disturbed.
how are you
by it.
dealing with that? Because you've been really, I every time I look at anything online about you right now, it's quite a mixed bag. You have really pissed some people off.
Cashews and pistachios, dude.
What?
Yeah, they're Brazil. It's just a mixed bag. It's mixed nuts.
Oh,
A bunch of mixed nuts. There's a couple of raisins out there, little pruny little people like
This-
following me around. I don't know. Like every 6 months, every 3 to 6 months, I have gotten dogpiled by the same group of people
How do you know it's the same
for
group
the
of people?
past because it's the same accounts.
Oh, okay, so it's like a small subset of these. You have haters. You have a
No,
little group.
they just forget about me. They exhaust all of their angst on me. And I had a conversation with Nina Paley about scapegoats and sacrificial lambs. And I think we met up with James Lindsay yesterday, and we had a great dinner with him, or lunch or brunch or whatever. And James was talking about there is a psychosocial aspect to this much more than an ideological aspect to this. And he's including not just third wave feminism or like this particular branch of feminism that's very activisty, but all of Marxism and all the substance of Marxism. It's a way of creating or of he got really technical. He says that it's phenomenology over ontology. It doesn't matter what is, it matters what seems, right? And so it's all a social order, and it's all created by reinforcing a social order, like the phenomenology. So it doesn't matter what Phil has done, it matters how he's interpreted more. And so it doesn't matter what I've done. Like I can talk to women until my face comes blue. Or turns blue, and not even talk to women. I can interview 400, 500 women and just really carefully, cautiously listen to and support them and platform them and raise them up. But if I violate one tenet of the dogma of these gender critical radical feminists or whatever they are, they will all say, you are a super misogynist. You are not our ally. We
Okay.
never should have trusted you.
But-
so it happens over and over and over
But
and over and over.
when you say they, I think you have to be really careful not to attribute what the feelings that are being expressed to you beyond the person who's expressing them. I mean,
yeah, but if there's a bunch of people
Then
who
it's
are doing
those
that, how do I
people.
use? What's the plural pronoun that I'm allowed to use?
Okay.
If not, they?
yes, you can use they, but I think that there's this tendency.
I hear you. Yeah, you're right. I have to constantly say I'm not talking about this group of
Yeah.
people. I'm talking about this other group of people, and maybe I'm not talking about this label. And that's another trick of the whole discourse.
Yeah.
You can't actually. Anybody could be a feminist. Anybody could be a trans rights activist. Like there's no code of conduct. There's no actual tenets, but in aggregate they police discourse, and in aggregate they have triggers. If you use certain phrases, if you say men are more rational than women, they just lose it. And even if you say that as a joke, they just lose it because that's a trigger word. Rationality and man put together, like that is just a core tenet of what they believe about like
Well,
women's oppression and women being told that they're not rational.
but to be
or they're
fair,
being
if you
irrational.
say something like that, you know you're being a little bit cheeky. You know you're being a bit of a troll.
Well, that was a really bad example.
Okay.
Sometimes I've said that, but I didn't even mean to say that, and they get mad. Sometimes I joke about orthodoxy, and they get mad. So I've been like repeatedly. There's a psychosocial dynamic in this group where they have a lot of inner tension. They're always positioning themselves, and always like there's a lot of tension between them. But whenever a man comes along who's just the right size, not too big, not too small,
Okay.
where they can all gang up on him, they take all of that negativity that's in their group. It's a scapegoat activity. It's a psychosocial dynamic more than it is an ideological
Well, it's
thing.
also an internet dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also just this weird artifact of internet discourse. It's like
Emanation.
don't read the comment section, and Twitter's just it's like the giant comment section.
Yeah.
You know,
Constant comment.
constant comment. Yeah. So there's something kind of, people are discharging a lot of emotion.
Well, I mean, so it's a constant. So how do we regulate our emotions, Leslie Elliott?
Oh gosh.
How do
Depends on the context.
how do we refrain from emotional flooding?
Well, I think it's good to take time if you start to notice that you are feeling like that. To not, I mean, you say that you told me that, really early on in our communication. You said I don't argue in text, and it wasn't because we were arguing or anything. You just said it's a thing that you try not to do, and I thought that was really wise.
We argued precisely once
In
on
text?
and
Did
it was
we?
an absolute disaster.
Oh, don't remind me because we'll have to go through it right now.
Like no,
Live.
I'm just saying like
I don't
you had your point,
remember.
I had my point,
Oh.
and neither of us could listen to each other, and so we both like got further and further apart in what we were talking about, and histrionicalizing, like we were getting more and more dramatic. Like it's just a part of like our timeline.
Now I want to know what it was, but don't tell me right now. I'll ask you later.
It's fine.
Okay, I don't remember.
It is. Like I violated
but
that,
yeah.
and I'm like, it was just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever do this.
Well, and I think that's the thing is like it's so easy to start just start losing sight of the complexity of the other person's perspective and flatten them down.
Yeah.
And then you're treating them as if they just represent this thing that you're frustrated with.
Well, and you're also reinforcing them to act in a certain way too. So you're turning the salty stick even
salty
saltier.
stick.
Yeah, it's about the salty stick, and
Yeah.
you're turning the salty stick even saltier by licking it in a certain way.
That's a really funny bit that you
The
did.
salty stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So there are like the hate follow. It's my little story about the hate follow, and I can repost it again.
Yeah,
on
it's
Twitter,
cute.
but
You posted it on Twitter just the other day. Yeah.
It's just like about the hate follow because
Yeah.
we were talking about hate follow.
Yeah, and I don't
We
like
have a
to do
hate
that.
follower too.
Oh yeah, we do. We have somebody who hates us and posts about us.
Yeah.
But that's fine.
Is that creepy? Can women be creepy?
Yeah, women can be creepy.
Who's creepier, men or women?
Men are creepier than
Oh,
women.
she didn't even disqualify. Like not all men. She's like, no, men.
No,
Men,
in
they-
general, although I'm sure that there are some women out there who are way creepier than some men.
Yeah.
I mean, of course. But
What's
yeah.
creepy? Can you define creepy?
Can I define creepy?
Like when somebody calls me creepy, what do you think
Creepy
they're
is like
talking
a mixture of disgust and fear, maybe. Like
He's a
feeling like
threat.
something is creepy
He's a
is
hypocrite,
like
he's
it's
a
disgusting, and I'm
liar.
also a little scared of it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Okay.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like there's an it's a vibe thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. That's such a weird piece of slang.
Somebody criticized me for being anti-woman. I'm like, what? Can you tell me where I was anti-woman? And they're like, it's just a vibe.
It's a vibe.
I'm like, what? Like you said, I'm anti-women. Like every time, it just
See.
always comes about. Oh,
There's
Oceana
this-
23. Benjamin, is Lindsay in town? Will he be speaking anywhere or just visiting? Also, you've gone out of your way to be kind to your guests. I
To
don't
your
know.
guest, maybe me. Am I your
Oh,
guest?
you're not my guest now. You're my taskmaster. Lindsay was in town for some sort of I don't know if I should say it out loud. It was some sort of he gave a talk at a gala or something, and
But not in. Not
yeah, it
up
was
here.
south of Seattle.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we went down and we met him on a pier. There's pictures on our Twitter.
We met him, and then we also went to a pier.
Okay, yeah, we had a little
That sounds
peer.
kind of like sketchy. Like
We had a little peer
we
review.
had some weird rendezvous on a pier.
We had some peer-to-peer peer review.
Peer review.
Yeah.
That's cute. Yeah.
We peered off the pier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
So, wedding.
Not a creep. I want to see what people think about the creepiness.
Oh, okay. I want to talk.
There was a creep here.
wanna-
Not creep. I think that's about you, Benjamin. You're not a creep.
Not creep.
I don't know how to add this. Okay, there we go. Not
Kook.
creep.
Yeah.
So what about the wedding?
Well, one more thing. The Philly thing.
Okay.
Usually these things last 3 to 4 days. It's been 2 weeks and it's still going on. There's something going on.
Well, we're having more
here.
conversation about it right now.
I know, but
Which-
no, on Twitter, I keep on being assaulted by people's low opinion of me and low resolution opinion of me, which is stressful. It usually doesn't get to me, but when it goes on and on and on. It gets more. It just grinds me down.
Well, can you just stop talking
grinds
about
me
it? Can
down.
you just stop?
Can you?
Can we just put a
stop?
pin in it and
It's
put?
Could you just not dress that way if you don't want to be gang raped online? Could you just stop? It's like blaming the victim here. Blaming the victim.
Is that right?
You're blaming me. I'm a victim.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, it keeps on coming up.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
Anyways.
Yeah, it has gone on and on, and I think it's because people on one side of the argument want to. It just represents one thing to them that's very, very clear.
Right.
And they're very frustrated that the people who are still seeing some merit in allowing his behavior don't just see it their way. It's not flat for them.
Allowing his behavior.
His behavior. Okay, so the dress thing. If we're gonna just
and his
continue.
ideas, he wrote
but
these ideas.
Forget his ideas for a little bit.
Okay.
I think looking just at behavior, if we are to say that was not okay, it's not okay for a man to come to a conference in a dress. You have to be able to say why, and you have to figure out what your set of rules is and how to apply that fairly across the board. And so, why is it not okay for him to wear a dress?
Because
it can't be because of what the thoughts in his mind. He has to also be. I think that's off limits, because are we going to start doing a thought scan for everybody about their clothing?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Can you do that? You can't.
Intent
do
matters.
That.
Well, how do you measure intent?
You can measure behavior. So if he's starting to do something that's creepy, so if he's fondling himself or masturbating or leering at people or something, well, clearly decency rules would apply. He would be ejected really quickly and maybe even arrested. What?
That's not everything to be ejected in record speed.
Oh geez.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but if he's not allowed to wear a dress, then what other males would not be allowed to wear a dress? And would it be dependent on how much medicalization you've had? And then,
or how gay you are.
And then if you're going to do that, you're actually supporting and pushing the idea of medicalization for gender dysphoria rather than non-medical. And gender
roles.
Yeah.
So look at how the gender critical.
So it becomes a really complicated thing. I mean, how can you say that people should be allowed to express themselves how they want, just please don't medicalize? And we're worried about over-medicalization for transgender individuals, and especially for youth who are trans-identified. But then the person who gets the most flack is the person who shows up expressing gender nonconformity, but not trying to go into the opposite sex spaces and not medicalizing. So I think that's a big topic. And the people who are critical of this feel like, no, the AGP is a workaround, and you're just going to zoom into that and call that out, and therefore invalidating the rest of it for him. So he's invalid in terms of consideration for those other factors because of the AGP.
Yeah.
But then what about the next guy who it feels exactly the same way, just hasn't written a book about it or talked about it and presents that same way? Is that how? Then you're getting into mind reading.
Yeah.
Then you're getting into thought police.
Okay, so which goes back to, how do we police public morality? On what basis are we going
Public
to police
morality?
Public behavior, like mores, norms, dress norms, sex norms? How do we enforce sexual mores in the current era? On what basis? And the basis needs to be not rational in and of itself, but rationalizable, like something that we can argue about, check, test, make really solid arguments, convince each other without name calling.
Okay.
Right?
Well, who is we? First of all,
Anybody who
what
wants
size
to...
group are you trying to dictate?
Okay.
Morals
That's
for,
good. Okay. So
morality for?
Seattle.
Just like the city of Seattle. You want to talk
Let's
about
make
that?
Seattle moral.
Okay. Well,
What would you do with pride if you were the mayor of Seattle and you wanted to clean up
well,
the sodomy?
I keep asking this question over and over because this is something that I'm really curious about. It's how do we define healthy sexual morality in a secular age and right now when everything's gone so off the rails? I mean, well, when things have broken down to the point where people are dissecting gender and sexuality in all kinds of different ways, and it's completely splintered. So how do those of us who are concerned about this, how do we define what healthy sexual morality actually is? Yeah. And I've asked this of many people as I'm having these conversations, and I asked James Lindsay this yesterday, and I thought his response, he was really quick with his response. He obviously had already given this a lot of thought, and he came closer to something that resonated with me than anybody else.
Vibe. He had a vibe.
I don't use
a resonance. I'm sorry, not a vibe, but a resonance.
Okay, well, I guess it is pretty similar, but okay. So yeah, it made sense to me. It didn't seem to complete the picture for me, but it was a really good start. And he was talking about public versus private. That was his main, dividing line, is make sexual behavior private again, basically. Yeah. And I thought
sexuality in general.
I thought, yeah, that seems that. And I had a hard time sleeping last night, and I kept on thinking about this. You too? Yeah.
We were tossing and turning, man.
I know.
The cats were running around too. Did you guys have like a weird night? Maybe there was some sort of like conjunction.
the moon out. The moon is full or something.
Yeah,
no, I don't think it is actually. But
slept terribly.
Yeah, it was. I kept thinking about this. Like, is there some way to brand sexuality, privacy of sexuality, like making sexuality private, like get it out of
make
the
modesty
sphere.
Sexy again. That's my make modesty sexy again. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just seems like there's been such the sexual identities are these front and center things that we all need to know about each other's sexuality, and I have this flag that represents me in this way, and we need to walk that back. No, I mean, I don't want to know even that. I don't think that why is that relevant? Why is any of the sexuality stuff relevant to people that you're not that aren't your partners?
You know what? We keep on coming back to this over the course of our deep end. Mm-hmm. We keep on coming back to sexual morality, pornography, the relationship between men and women specifically. I think a lot of like the underbelly of the gender wars is based on the battle of the sexes, so called. Mm-hmm. It's based on there's a basic fundamental asymmetry between men and women. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to opine right now that all of culture is creative ways of articulating that asymmetry.
All of culture,
all of human culture is signals basically to institute mores around sexuality.
Really?
I think that
What about a lot of culture is about worshiping God?
What's the highest act of worship of the creator of life? Creating more life.
But maybe that's just you're focusing on. I don't know. I have to think about this.
Okay, it's a huge statement, and
I have to think about this.
It's something that make you think.
I can't agree with it right off the bat, but I'll think about it.
Please don't agree with me.
No, I'm not going to right now.
But I'm saying our culture is particularly maladaptive. Has created we have really bungled up that asymmetry, that fecund, potent, creative asymmetry between the sexes has been bungled. For a lot of different reasons. And a lot of the ills in our society come down to that the untethered sexuality and sexuality not being, or the erotic intent or the libidinal urge not being aimed in a creative direction. It's aimed in a narcissistic direction.
Look.
Do they have heat in their house? It's called a blanket, man. We're trying to ESG our way into the winter.
We do have heat in our house, but we just got in from being out, and it wasn't on, and it's taking a long time to warm back up.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just cold here. It's cold and damp.
Were we not hot enough for you? What was his name? Oh my gosh. Shrug. Helen
my goodness.
Blavatsky shrug. That's the worst. You said one time. You said, Leslie. One time you said,
What did
you
I
know,
say?
you what you hate most is the mid. Give me somebody who's fugly or beautiful, but the mid's
I said
just
that? I don't think
no,
that's
no.
what I
But you
said.
said you really
Here, let
have
me
a
do-
problem with ambivalence. Something
Yeah.
that's in the middle. Something
Well,
that's
but no.
neither hot nor cold. Something that's lukewarm.
Oh no, I said that about my tea or my coffee, not about
Yeah.
attitudes and
Well, no, I think
opinions.
aesthetics too.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Like that uncomfortable mid, and yet you are the radical center. There's just a lot of tension here. There's a lot of tension here. Anyways,
Here's
any
Corinna.
audience questions? Benjamin is right. Humans are designed to produce offspring and survive long enough to raise kids. I think it's just the fundamental like seesaw upon which everything runs. If that thing is out of whack, the entire culture, the entire civilization
That's
falls
the one.
apart. Ben's wearing that hat because he knows it looks cute. No, I'm wearing that hat because she thought it looked cute.
Yeah, it's my hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much dithering when we try to argue within a purely worldly framework. Yeah, this is.
Can you put that on the screen? Did you already put that on the
No, I
screen?
didn't yet.
Too much dithering when we try to argue within a purely worldly framework. It's really hard. We have no common transcendental language. And we can try to create it spiritual, not religious and stuff. It's really, really difficult. It's just a really, really difficult thing. So I really appreciate like when you came into my life and we had these conversations, you helped me articulate like how to communicate the reality of a sexual morality, because it has to be aimed towards a virtue or a value. What is that value? What's the highest value that sexuality can be aimed at? And this value doesn't mean that other aspects of sexuality are not valid. It's just they all serve one thing, which would be
What?
connection.
Okay.
That's what he said. Sexuality is about connection. And then and procreation. I've extrapolated on that. I have some really cool creative ways of saying it's like it's a language of intimacy, right? It's the embodiment of just like it's one aspect in which it's one way in which two individuals. And I think superior. I'm just going to say, men and women are just superior. Like they're the king. They're the king. Everything
Superior
else
to what?
to every other form of sexual congress, the male and the female form of
You're
congress.
talking about heterosexuality.
I'm just going to say, if we're going to tier sexuality and like a male-female sexual relationship within a loving long-term relationship, that's S tier. That is just S tier. There's
S?
nothing S like S A B E C D E and F like. It's just it's a thing.
I don't know what
she
this
doesn't know what I'm
is.
talking about.
No,
Like I'm just gonna say
Okay.
that heterosexual long term, maybe or maybe not procreative, but with the capacity for that, or at least like using the vehicle for that, that is the supreme
Okay.
form of intimacy. But anyways, that Congress, loving Congress, creative, loving, fun Congress. It can be creative, it can be loving, it can be pleasurable, and so on. It's one way in which we get to shut off our brains and actually be close. Every other way of being close to another person is linguistic. And that is one way where you can be close to somebody that is not linguistic. That's like ontological. We're expressing our beings to one another, and we are enveloped within being with one another.
And so, in relation to a paraphilia or a fetish or a
Aberrant
something like that.
sexuality
Yes,
of some sort,
so,
yeah, or another.
What? How is that?
It would all be. It would just be if that is prime. If you can say that that's prime, and that's the problem, guys, in the GC cult. Like you have to say that there has to be one way to have sex.
You
and
do?
then
You have to
I
say
think
that?
I think you have to say
But
that.
could that be a category? Could you say that it's just between two people? Could you say that it's a connection?
No,
between
because
two
like
people?
what if two people are like beating each other up or sadomasochistic?
Oh, but I mean, if you define it, because you're talking about one specific thing, you're talking about heterosexuality, and you're talking about procreative.
No, I'm talking about sexuality in general. If they
Okay.
want to go into if they want to start to moralize sexuality and police
But who
erotic
is
intent.
they? Are you just talking about the angry people on Twitter?
I'm
or are you talking
yeah,
about,
no, I'm talking about the entire discussion. I'm talking about the entire discussion.
do
We
you see
have
people
to,
who are seriously, moving this discussion in any particular direction, having some kind of having this really, what, how do you see this? Who are you talking to when you say that?
I'm just saying, if you're going to start to police dress, you're going to police it based on sex, right? Sexual intent.
Do you
You're
think
gonna
anybody's really talking about doing that? Like, really?
I
Or just
really do
angry
think
people on
that
Twitter?
if you follow that disgust reaction to its root, it's
Okay.
the desire to reimpose sexual mores that have been lost from our culture for way too long, that have made women and men both adrift in totally different ways.
Okay.
Or in similar but different ways.
Okay.
Or largely in just adrift and alienated. Modern sexuality is alienating. Tinder hookup culture is alienated. Pride Month and all these paraphilias, it's alienating. And people are starting to want to express disgust about this. And for whatever reason, the GenSpec conference was one place where they could express disgust at, because like these are, I think part of the animus here is that GenSpec was supposed to be a place where they felt safe. And that they didn't want GenSpec to be open to more ideas than they wanted GenSpec to be their ally in
Okay.
these ways, where GenSpec was like, we have a mission. Allyship is around this mission, not necessarily just like making everybody feel good. We want to stop or to provide an alternative to the medicalization of youth. Period. Everything else is invited under that umbrella. You're giving me a signal that I need to chill out.
Really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it all comes down to, if we're going to start to police morality, if we're going to start to police dress, and then it goes to sex, if we're going to start to put that disgust mechanism in its place, then it's got to be aimed at a positive morality. And that's what I'm saying. If you're going to actually make a positive sexual morality, you're going to have to make a hierarchy. Nobody wants to do that, because then some people are lesser than others, and some people are born that way. Wait, but some people get to be born that way, but other people can't be born that way. Some people can be not standard. Some people can be the good deviants, and some people are the bad deviants.
Somebody
Or there's
here-
no such thing as deviancy.
Thank you for the super chat, Corinna. Did you read that one?
Corinna, no, read it out loud.
Okay.
Keep sexuality private. Gender criticism transmutating into gender Calvinism. Dress as you wish is out. Dress as we let you in
Is in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one I wanted to read here. It was about teens. Darkwater says, teens are rebelling by not having sex. It's not surprising the population is declining after sterilization became acceptable. I think that's interesting. I don't know that I would say that it's rebelling by not having sex. I think a lot about the way young people are being raised has changed quite a bit. There's not nearly as much freedom. And there's so much access to internet pornography, and I think it's really warping the way young people think about sex and sexuality and think about each other. Oh, what's this? This is another super chat. Woot Baseman.
What was Rudy's best point against Phil? I don't approve of AGPs having secret, sometimes sex with themselves in public. You?
Was that his best?
It's really interesting.
I haven't listened to that conversation.
I appreciate Rudy coming on. I appreciate Phil coming. I appreciate them both for willing to hang themselves out there. And I did a lot of work on Phil's side, and so as a moderator, I think it's fair to say I was biased towards Phil's side, because I didn't understand how we can go into the discussion around disgust at sexuality without violating the code of never making a distinction between heterosexuality and homosexuality. And Rudy's like a openly homosexual male. So but his sexuality is sacrosanct, but he has a disgust, like his entire argument about Phil resolved into a disgust reflex. But if you wind back the clock 50, 40, 30 years, the disgust reflex was closeting homosexuals. So we want to start to
it's like, where do you put the pin in the timeline?
we want to regulate disgust. And what you're saying, what I think is possible, this is the way that everybody gets their cake and gets to eat it too, is that we just relegate it to the bedroom, make sexuality private. But to what extent does sexuality influence how we express ourselves in public? And this is where I got in trouble. That I said, if you're going to police a man in a dress, why not police a woman in a halter top with no bra on and yoga pants? Because if a woman is walking around in a yoga top and halter pants, and she knowingly knows that men are deriving sexual satisfaction from that, the men aren't going to say anything.
Well, no, and I'm.
But
I
there's
mean,
still
I think,
intent, right? It's still
I don't
making
know
the
about
sexual
that
public.
particular outfit, because I think that that's become so common that people maybe don't realize that that's as
See,
sexy as it might be
yeah,
to
but
other
the thing
people.
is,
But
like-
there are some times when women do dress really purposefully to catch the eye, and
Yeah.
of course they do. As young women, I can remember doing that.
Well, to what
But-
degree are we going to start to police that?
I know,
But
that's a
I
good
think I
question.
think it really is
This
like they
is-
don't want to police women at all. They really want to police male sexuality.
This one, Chaucerian Fraud, says sex is so common it's no longer a taboo. No teen rebellion in that. But I don't think that teens have sex just to rebel. I think that's kind of very low on the list of reasons that they would be having sex. I don't think I was ever thinking about whether it was taboo or not. In fact, I would have preferred not to be thinking about my parents or any adults at all when I was a teenager and feeling randy.
Oh, feeling randy.
Yeah.
Feeling
Yeah. Anything else you want to read here?
Feeling randy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these.
Or did I creep
Nice
you out by
song.
getting so passionate about these?
Did you creep me out?
Did I creep you out?
No, you didn't creep me out. I don't find you very creepy.
You don't find me creepy?
No.
Not even when I creep up behind you when I walk down the hallway
You know,
like a
you
normal
scare
human being?
me.
Okay.
You scare
I
me.
startle you.
Yes, you startle me.
Yeah.
And you make me shriek.
You go whoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do that.
And
a lot.
and then what I say?
You say you live with a man.
You live with the man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
like
you
a
say.
creepy man because I'm so quiet and creepy. I creep down the hallway.
Do you?
Everybody else in this house stomps down the hallway. I actually walk like this.
Yeah. Maybe you are creepy. It's just
Oh,
not in the
okay,
way
yeah,
that they
there we
meant.
go, good.
You're not disgusting and scary.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you
you're
for
cute.
marrying me. It's been 3 weeks.
Has it?
Oh, on
Is that
Friday.
what-
Wait, on Friday it was our. No, it was our
Yeah.
4 week. on
No,
Friday.
really? No, 3.
I
It's
think
got to
it was
be 3.
but no, because it was 2 at Ginspect. We had our fortnight
Did we?
at Ginspect,
Okay,
and then I was away last
okay.
week, and so yeah, we had 4. So it was 28 days.
Well, thanks.
It's a sex pact. Maybe we shouldn't make that
No,
public.
you
Yeah,
shouldn't
that was
say
in public.
that.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be private.
Strike that
That's
from the
the whole
record. Yeah.
conversation.
Okay, yeah, that was totally. That was
Jeez.
not.
Okay, now
no,
you are
this is-
creepy. Okay.
Yeah, no, we're like Ozzy and
Okay.
Harriet or Mormon and Nancy or whatever.
I don't know.
We sleep across the room from each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Two
Or
twin
we
beds.
don't sleep, and the cats just pounce back and forth between us. Anyways.
Well, okay.
Well, thank you.
You have anything else you want to say?
Well, do you have anything else do you want to say?
No, I think that's.
Is there any tricky things, any questions that you want to leave the audience?
Yeah, I think that the question about sexual morality is one that I'd love to hear more people weigh in on. Like, how do we define a healthy sexual morality? Right now, absent a universal religious foundation, how do we come back to something that we can define and agree upon in terms of healthy sexual morality?
Without authority, you can't.
Well, that's why I want to ask the question.
Without authority, you can't do anything.
I'd like to hear what people have to say. That's the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining the Deep End. I will have Kelly J. Keane and Stella O'Malley apparently live on Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time, which is 11 a.m. Pacific time.
I'll look forward to watching that.
That's going to be really gangbusters.
It'll be really great to hear what they think, because they come from really strong perspectives.
Yes.
And it'll be fascinating to hear them think about all these topics.
I deeply admire both of those women. I'm sorry, but I deeply admire women. That's why I really enjoy speaking
What
with
a
them.
misogynist thing to say.
I know, it's so condescending. It's so patriarchal. Like, I really want to hear your opinion. I want to hear Kelly J. Keane's opinion. I want to hear Stella O'Malley's opinion. I want to hear these women who disagree with me's opinion. I don't think that you're getting anywhere by calling, people names or like by being overly nasty. I think that is just a way of not making an argument. So I really encourage everybody who has strong opinion to just try to articulate that opinion.
I'll say something that's really nice that you do. You read these there'll be these terrible comments that people say about you, and you're so nice to these people when you show them to me. You're like, she's not being her best. She's really a nice person. And you're like, you're so forgiving even when they're saying these horrible things to you. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
It's really nice. I
I
like
think
that.
we're all children.
Yeah.
I think we're all wrong. I think we're all just really doing our best, and sometimes our worst gets the better of us in that pursuit. I'm going to end on that because that was just a tweet. So I'm going to go write that down. You guys have a great night. Thank you very much. If you guys want to support us, which we could really appreciate.
In our cold house.
In our cold house. There's a link to the buy us a coffee if you guys want to buy us a coffee, or kitty food that's down in the description. We really appreciate that. But absolutely, just enjoy this content. And create your own content too. The content must flow. You guys have a very blessed Sunday evening.
Thank you.